Broadcasting from our studio in Ocala, Florida. I'm Brody Barcode.
I'm Ryan James.
And welcome to The Parlor, your hub for independent art and entertainment, as well as a platform to showcase independent artists and entertainers abroad. Now that's gourmet. Dropping by The Parlor this evening to hang out with us is the incredibly talented independent artist, as well as filmmaker, Mr. Adam Newman of But It Did Happen Productions. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you for finally working with our schedule and your schedule and the back and forth of craziness.
In my truest fashion, it was procrastinated to the very end.
Well, hey, we got to hold true to ourselves, don't we?
Well, of course, got to stay on brand.
Because Lord knows that's what we all have a tendency to do that, some more than others, and that's okay.
But it did happen.
That's right.
There it is.
Now, is procrastination like what you say? You shoot some of your movies in like 14 days, but how long is it actually in the making?
Well, okay, that's so a lot of people do get on me about this. Okay, for the pre-production for me these days is quite long too. So it's typically about 9 months to a year when we're doing things depending on the project. Our last project was probably about a year, but that's also because we had to raise money for it.
And that's not bad.
Oh, it's not bad at all, but it was also a 12-minute movie. So it's, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of it really depends on what the project is. Sometimes you want to just get in and get something done. Most of the time I say 9 months to a year. Shooting, we have to shoot fast because everything is expensive and people's time is valuable. And then when it comes to the actual editing, that's where I do tend to get in a little bit of trouble. It typically takes me about a year and a half to get something completed, and it takes a little bit of pushing. And then I tend to do it all at once. In that I do a little bit of the work and then I do intense 12-hour days for 3 or 4 days straight just to start getting it out the birth canal. I do feel like it needs to brew a little bit. At the same time, after we're done shooting, I feel like I have to get a little bit of a distance from the project and kind of think about quite possibly the complete opposite genre, so I can get my head out of it and then I can come back kind of with fresher eyes.
That's extremely reasonable. I mean, especially for editing, because I mean, with us, I mean, we have a lot of ideas.
Sure.
And sometimes we have to think about, okay, are we capable of doing this?
Yeah.
Not yet, but we will.
Yeah.
So we kind of work some of it around and either try to implement a little bit of it or have the research done to
mapping it and strategizing.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And
you've got what, 3 different projects roughly that you're juggling right now, or?
Well, we just finished up our festival run with the movie. So years ago, I decided to kind of separate from a directing partner that I had, and then I kind of decided to go off and do my own thing, and I kind of got obsessed with just doing everything for the cheapest way that we possibly could. Mm-hmm. I remember I was on the beach reading Lloyd Kaufman's book, the Make Your Own Damn Movie.
Nice.
And I mean, I'm sorry if you guys like them. I don't like trauma movies, but I appreciate what they're going for and how they are able to ride this line and stay under, X number of dollars back when they were shooting on film. Yeah. So I read this book and I was like, I could do that. I can make a movie, but I'm not a huge, like I said, I'm not a huge trauma fan. So I said, well, I really like Richard Linklater movies. What happens if Trauma made Before Sunset or Boyhood? And so I started kind of doing something like that. And I made this movie Scarlet K for probably about $2,000. It was a feature. We shot it in a beach house. We did it probably over about 15 days, crazy hours, about 12, 16-hour days. We shot it on a T3i with a tiny crew, and we made that movie, and it just finished up its festival run where we won We won best film at the Sanford Independent Film Festival. I won best director. Not trying to toot my own horn too much here. So we made it into
congratulations.
Well, thank you. So we were able to get that into probably about 8 festivals, and then the moment I finished shooting Scarlet K with my team, we immediately wanted to do the complete opposite, and we made this really somber slow burn that takes place in Maine called ICE Patrol. And right now we're kind of finishing up our festival run with that. Unfortunately, as you guys know, the whole COVID situation has made things really awkward. So in terms of watching our movie in a theater with people, which is, I don't know about you guys, but that's basically why I do this. And and unfortunately we haven't had it happen yet, which is a shame. So we're coming to the closing of that, and then we made a movie called Nomad after that, which is also closing out its festival run. That's a short. We spent a little bit more money on that. It was about $9,000, and then from there we ended up making this movie called Carolina Shag, which is the movie I mentioned earlier, where we raised $45,000 in order to shoot this 12-minute short, and where we flew actors out, and it was, and built sets. It was pretty crazy. It does take place on a bar that's built into a moon on a golf course that plays with limited gravity. So it's we ended up, as you can see, it's a $45,000 idea. And so so we
that's
filmed
pretty awesome, man. Like you just said, I mean, going from slow burn to just this complete left field kind of a style of film there. That's really awesome.
Well, I'm a big fan of genre. And I love jumping from genre to genre. Obviously the movie that you guys worked on with me years and years ago was kind of let's face it, was a Big Lebowski ripoff. And
Brick,
without a doubt, Brick was a huge part of it too. Absolutely. But it was kind of a lazy noir, and from there I wanted to go and make a B movie that was a B movie about a relationship story. And from there we went to the slow burn, and then we went to a post-apocalyptic movie that's just about the tension in a house. And then from there we went on and made the movie where people beat each other up in a bar on a moon. So I do want to, I'm constantly trying to jump genres. It's probably just because of my eclectic brain and not being able to stay still. And once I've mined a genre, I kind of think, well, what's next in the other one? Sometimes we'll come back to them, but we're trying to take all these big swings. And then right now I'm, whenever I get a free moment away from my day job, I'm trying to work on the next thing, which is actually kind of a sequel to the movie ICE Patrol that we made, because it's probably the most important movie of my young career. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Just the versatility to be able to,
thank you.
Jump from A to Z.
Sure.
How do you keep those ideas separated like that and not jumble things together?
I mean, honestly, I have probably, I don't suffer from writer's block or anything like that. I typically have about 10,000 ideas. That's an exaggeration, but I mean, there's a lot. And a lot of times what you do is you kind of just have notes, and these notes end up combining and joining other movies. And eventually that one scene that you had planned, I have a scene right now that I'm working into the thing I'm writing, and I wrote it 10 years ago. And all of a sudden I went, oh my God, the fireworks scene. There it is. It's right there. So I'm constantly writing all of these things, and eventually the bad ideas, which there are tons of them, are just kind of whittled away. And then eventually, hopefully you have one or two really solid ideas. What I can say is when I'm invested in a genre and I'm really committed to something, I tend to seek out movies like that. I tend to only read stuff like that. I play video games that are kind of like that. So, when I wanted to jump into our movie Nomad, which takes place in a fantasy world, but is also post-apocalyptic, I was like, well, I have to jump into stuff that's like this. And so, I put on Children of Men on repeat. And then after that, you watch Lord of the Rings. And then after that, you dive into The Last of Us, the video game. And then you also dive into The Legend of Zelda, because that was, that's kind of the inspiration for it originally. I just wanted a dark Legend of Zelda. So it's just, you kind of jump around, you play with all these ideas. And then if another idea comes up, you kind of just focus on that. And all of a sudden I go, oh man, I only want to watch dark thrillers, and so I just watch dark thrillers constantly and try to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes if you put on a beautiful animated movie like Soul, you're like, maybe I should get in animation, so
Oh yeah. Then that's
all
when
kind
it
of
all
depends on
that's when it all falls off the table. Which is like, well, crap, I can't draw.
yeah, that is of course the tough thing, without a doubt.
That's just me.
Oh,
I mean,
sure. No,
I can look at an animated and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that.
I am literally the worst artist there is. But what I do love about, even when you're watching movies of all genre, which, by the way, if you are a filmmaker, I think like the one thing you must do is watch a ton, is just constantly be taking in movies. You're going to pick up, in the best of movies, you're going to come away with a feeling that you go, oh, this is the reason why I made these things. And in the worst movie, you're going to come away with 1,000 lessons as to what not to do. So I just try to digest a whole bunch of things. And I believe if you're reading and watching and listening to a wide variety of stuff, you can't really help but come up with, quote, good ideas.
Speaking of that, where did it all begin for you? Like when it really hit you, as far as, okay, this is the direction, the path that I'm locked into. This makes the most sense to me. This is where I'm headed. I always tell the story about how I was in the third grade when I was just, really starting to learn how to write. And I used to watch my step uncle play Final Fantasy III. He wouldn't let me play because he was older. And I was just obsessed with it because of the story. And I could read the dialogue faster than he could. And so I started writing stories that were kind of based on that. It was just my friends beating up guys on mountains, which was basically the only storyline. From there, I kind of knew, okay, I have to be some form of storyteller, without a doubt. And so at first it was novels. And then in high school, I kind of got more into playwriting. This is where the "but it did happen" comes from. I was 19 and I was watching the movie Magnolia because my playwriting teacher had said that it was really interesting. And there's a moment in the movie where, spoiler alert for some people, it's raining frogs, and there's this moment where I said out loud, there is no way that this is happening right now. And at that moment, the camera pushed in, and then it racked focus, and then there's just this little slip of paper in the corner of a picture frame that says, "But it did happen." And I went, oh my God, my mind was blown. And I remember after the movie, I said, oh, you can make movies like that. I didn't know you could do that. And I said, I got to watch this movie again. And I just put it on. And since then, it's kind of come to be film. It has to be film. And I didn't understand why at the time, but it's just because I'm more moved by moving pictures. Mm-hmm. And I find that, maybe books do different things for everybody. Looking at a painting does something for everybody. But in terms of storytelling, visual storytelling is the thing that really hit me. And so my goal now is always, I just need to make one person feel like Magnolia made me feel that one time. That's the only goal, so it's been kind of a long process in that. And then since then I've just been getting more and more obsessed. And you guys knew me, what's crazy, 8 years ago or whatever. Yeah. And back then I was a very particular type of person. And now if you guys saw me, you'd be like, oh man, he's gone too far. He's a little too obsessed. It's only getting worse every day. It's snowballing. Where my girlfriend is just getting sick and tired of me talk about story structure and about these visual moments that I have in my head and I can't get out and whatnot. So,
well, being that you're an independent filmmaker, do you, and when you're doing your quote unquote research of absorbing so many different movies, do you take in some independent film as well?
Of course, absolutely.
Or is that just so you can go, I'm glad I didn't do that?
No. Well, first, low budget movies and independent movies are some of the best absolutely to see in terms of, oh boy, I never want to do that, without a doubt. I'm definitely not. There's also some amazing times when you watch something that's low budget and you go, how the fuck did they pull that off?
Yeah.
And that is the mind-blowing one when I look up, because after I watch a movie, bad or good, I immediately just deep dive into it. It's like, okay, who's the director? What are they about? Where do they come from? Okay, how was the production of this movie? How did they cast the actors in this movie? Where did the idea come from? And then you start looking at things like the budget, and you go, there is no way that this movie only cost $200,000, which is a lot to us, but of course is very low in terms of what movies cost. And then you start thinking, well, if they can do something like that, maybe I can. And what makes them special in what they're doing? So I believe truly you should be watching crappy, big budget blockbusters constantly. You should also be watching no budget movies. You should be watching fringe horror movies. You should be watching awful period dramas. You should be watching all these different types of things. So without a doubt, I do especially got to support my friends, all the people that have come onto my crew and what they do now. I'm big supporters of them. One of the movies I actually was first AD on just premiered. It's called Derek and Boyd. There's the trailer online if people want to go take a look. And of course, I was able to watch the full movie, and I'm incredibly proud of the people I worked on that movie with. And I know how hard they worked on that movie. And I always want to support people like that. And what's great about our networking is, maybe from this, I talk to somebody, or you guys end up getting in touch with somebody that knows me, and we start talking, and then all of a sudden we're making art together, which is really cool.
What's interesting about like independent horror movies and lower budgets, one that came to mind right after you said it was Escape from Tomorrow.
Okay.
And
I remember, I never saw it, but I remember it.
These guys were able to shoot in Disney World.
Yep. I remember that. Yeah.
And they hid it away from the mouse for 3 or 4 years. Have the edits done in Korea.
Yep.
And they had the entire crew and the actors. They all wore field recorders. They had their scripts on their phones. The film crew dressed up as tourists and had their looks changed. They would go in there with beards and mustaches before, and they just totally transformed them after having annual passes purchased. And they shot this. It was very much David Lynch style. And I mean, David Lynch is not necessarily one of my favorites, but I can admire some of his work that he puts into it, because there is that back end psychological thing that you don't necessarily know about it at first, and then it hits you and you're like, oh, son of a gun. It pops up. This one was kind of that way. And I mean, there were some moments in it where you could tell it was a bad green screen, but if you go back and watch it, you go, there's a reason why it looks bad. It's because, okay, well, it's supposed to be a dream sequence. Okay. And they didn't necessarily have the time. You don't know what the reason is, but having to salvage footage or whatever in order to make this work, that's what came out. Okay, fine. Not a big deal. But it's one of those, is like, I could sit there and watch it and go, how in the hell did they pull that off of like having the camera on the edge of the boat in It's a Small World?
Right.
And actually getting the front shot of these people in this boat. How did they do it? And they're using Canon Mark IIIs. Yep.
Oh yeah. This is what's so amazing about it though too. If you have a story that you want to tell, you just go do it. What you just described is totally great. And like, whether or not I like the movie or not, which I haven't seen it, but whether or not I like the movie or not, it exists. And that's the biggest part when it comes to it, is that even movies that you hate, be happy that they do exist. And what you just explained is totally true. But just a quick anecdote, the Mission Impossible 4 had a situation where they ran out of time. They wrote an entire monologue. They pasted it to Simon Pegg's head, and Tom Cruise read from it, and it's in the final cut. The biggest of movies has the most batshit stories about the silliest things. Everybody is an independent filmmaker at their core, and there's just different levels of it. I feel the same thing that you feel with that movie you just mentioned, with the movie Coherence, which is a movie that was made for $20,000. $12,000 of it is a wig so that they could do reshoots. And that movie just knocks me on my ass the 7 times or whatever that I've seen it. And it gets better with every watch. And they did it for $20,000 in a house with 2 guys rolling camera over 3 nights. It's like, you just find some way to get it done. That's why I'm not a big fan of people that sit around and go, oh, I have this great idea for a movie. I just go, well, go fucking make it. You can just go make it right now. Just go do it, you know?
Well, that's right up there with what inspired me when not only reading the book Rebel Without a Crew, but then seeing Robert Rodriguez made a $7,000 action movie.
Absolutely.
About, you know, a guitarist, El Mariachi. You know, that was that I don't know, that really proved it to me that, you know, it's possible. And he was shooting that on film.
Yeah,
that wasn't shot digital, you know.
That's the thing too, is that we, like, when we talk about those $7,000 movies, we talk about something like Clerks was my, you know, El Mariachi, where like I watched Clerks and I went, well, I got a bunch of friends and we could shoot in there. Absolutely. And they were, like we said, they were paying for film. I remember my first movies I was shooting on mini DV, which was our only expense. You just had to buy the mini DVs. But it's amazing with technology advances and whatnot, how cheap it is to make a movie. You go and see something like Tangerine, which is, you know, is shot by a well-known director who shot the Florida Project, which was nominated for Oscars. And so this guy goes out, he grabs an iPhone, goes and shoots at a donut time and gets you into this 80-minute movie. That's incredible, you know, and it was shot with an iPhone. And, you know, Steven Soderbergh, who, you know, won, you know, he was nominated for best. Yeah, exactly. He does this exactly. He goes and makes Unsane. This is the guy who was nominated for best director in the same year for 2 different movies. And then what he does is he decides to go make Unsane, and then he goes makes High Flying Bird because he has an iPhone and a clip adapter that costs $200. There's no excuse these days. One of the big quotes that I love is the Duplass brothers said that there is no excuse not to be making movies with your friends on the weekends. So no, without a doubt, I think it's kind of a mindset situation, and without a doubt.
With getting the films out, and speaking of like the film festivals, obviously everything's, you know, more in kind of this virtual realm, being, you know, not able to actually sit in the theater. How is that experience working for you with, for instance, like showing ICE Patrol?
I mean, it's depressing, without a doubt. It's definitely a shame that you can't. I mean, ICE Patrol is a little bit of a different animal. When we finally premiered Scarlet K. Scarlet K it's a dark comedy, and so sitting in a theater and listening to people laugh, there's not quite anything like that. And ICE Patrol is a lot more somber, like I mentioned. And when we premiered it, you know, you can hear the sniffles, which is always, you know, it's a deep honor that people are being moved by the movie. It's without a doubt, it's depressing though. I mean, that's a movie that me and my editor talk about it all the time, and we say, you know, like, we just need to get it one festival to see how people are reacting to it, if sitting in a room and having to deal with these characters for 100 minutes. Without a doubt, it's sad. I think we might extend the festival run because of it, and maybe try to jump into a couple more local ones, just because, I mean, these festivals cost money, but it is what it is, and it's worth it if you get into it and you get to watch it with an audience. I think that's the ultimate viewing experience.
So for the festivals that you were in, you were actually going to these festivals?
Beforehand, we were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Scarlet K, I was able to go in person. Okay. Nomad, I was able to go in person. I have not had the opportunity with ICE Patrol yet to see it in person. It has played virtually now at a few that were originally planned for us to sit down in a theater and watch, but COVID canceled them or moved them. Or
how's the feedback from that? I mean, is it? Are you getting emails?
I was about to ask that. I mean,
with it maybe being more broad, that more people can see.
There's a lot less chance of getting feedback because it's just a small panel of people sitting at home in their underwear watching this, writing down on their little sheet and then emailing back, pretty much, right?
I mean, the thing is, in terms of the views, I still do believe that it is easier to get somebody into a theater or wherever it is, wherever you're showing this, into a screening than it is to get them to watch it online. And listen, I'm just as much a product of that too. It's very difficult for someone to be like, do this with your 2 hours. And it's like, yeah, you might have those 2 hours available, but you also want to do nothing sometimes, literally. And so it is without a doubt one of the hardest things about filmmaking is getting people to watch the movie. I think people are terrified of it both being good and it being bad when they watch it, if they're your friends. Yeah. I mean,
especially if money is involved.
Well, and
absolutely.
That's where the beauty in the theater comes in, because you've got them
captive.
In. Yeah. They're in their seats. Room. They've got their popcorn. They got their tasty beverage,
and they willingly
and they're locked
for
in.
it.
Whereas if they're, like you said, if they're sitting at home online, or are they catching all of it, or oh hey, that thing's going on over there, and they're not. The attention's not locked into the
absolutely.
Way where even virtually, if you saw how many views were coming up with that link, sadly, I missed the ICE Patrol link because I was in the middle of filming for a movie that I'm in.
Sure.
And I was rather upset that I didn't get to see it, and also I was out of town for work. But how much easier would it feel in order to have they get this link and kind of like doing a Zoom meeting, all they got to do is just the audio, and yet have you chime in and watch one of the screenings during the festival, having your face down in the bottom right-hand corner or in a monitor or something like that, separating the movie to where you can hear what the reactions are. You don't have to see their faces. You don't care about it.
That would be something that would be kind of cool, without a doubt. Unfortunately,
for this time period.
Yeah. It's better to have the opportunity to watch the movie than not. I certainly will agree there. I wish that they did do something like that. I got to give a shout out to the Block Island Film Festival, is one where ICE Patrol did play. And they actually had it really well run, where they played it several nights in a row. And after each of the movies, so after ICE Patrol, they did the same thing. They live Zoom called me, and we had a chat about the movie. They asked me a whole bunch of questions about it, and they did an award ceremony. They did the best that they could, without a doubt.
Right.
The shame is, though, that I didn't get to go to Block Island and get a hotel and meet new people and watch the movie with somebody. And then maybe somebody can, I don't care if they come up and say, like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. I go, well, that it got something in. You felt something then. It was hatred, but you felt something.
Yeah.
And so I would love any of that, without a doubt. So that's just the toughest part. When it comes to this stuff, I would pay. We've done this. We've rented out theaters so that our friends and family can come and watch our movies. I'll do it again, without a doubt. And I would just pick people off the street, because I just want people to watch the damn thing. And I think that ultimately the online thing is great because it's an option, without a doubt. But I do very sorely miss sitting in a movie theater. And it's just like live theater in that, like, you have them captive. They are sitting there with their arms crossed going like, okay, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
But it's like a sports moment where I kind of revel in that pressure. I'm looking forward to that type of thing, without a doubt.
Well, with regards to that being said, is there, and obviously when this video posts, is there a link that people can go to actually chime in or subscribe to watch that movie?
What I can say right now is to follow us on our social media, which is Instagram and Facebook, in terms of where they can see them. We don't want to do any big releases online or anything like that, because we are still doing that festival run.
Right.
Having said that, Sanford Film Festival, which we just played at, which is great. That's the one that we won for Scarlet K. And it was also ICE Patrol was shot in Sanford. So it would have been so amazing to watch it in a theater in Sanford. And they were absolutely
on the link.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have been great, but it would have been so much better to sit there in a theater and watch it with them.
Now, in today's day and age, we were talking about this before we started recording. Looking back at your past films and writings, how do you think some of those scripts and everything would actually work today? I mean, how is your writing process affected living in these times and you're wanting to put together a movie?
You just got to be a little more careful. There's everything is constantly changing. Yes. I do not want to say it's necessarily always for the negative. I think we do get caught up in that at times. Mm-hmm. There is, whether we want to call it political correctness or anything like that, it very much exists. But I do also believe at times that it's good because it keeps me aware of what I am doing and how I could be affecting somebody. And if I'm making a decision for my movie, it needs to be the best decision for the movie, and it can't be something that I've haphazardly thrown in there. At times it's a worry, without a doubt, and I sit there and I agonize over some lines that are in something, but ultimately things are going to change. You have to roll with it. Filmmaking is problem solving, and I actually kind of like when there are limitations put on me because it seems to breed creativity. At the same time, obviously I don't ever want to get into a situation where you can't freely show or say something in that you could really, really feel strongly about.
Yeah. Right. I mean, with today being how sensitive it can be, I know that puts a different type of stress or a different approach. You have to think about moving about in order to get, one, your story across, and two, maybe a little offense, but not enough to cause a huge stir. You don't want to riot based off of
sure.
Right. Well, yeah. And like you said, I mean, okay, you have this hurdle in front of you, but all right, now, in my opinion on it, this is where the test comes in to see how creative you can be to still get your message across. And who knows? I mean, I know with regards to what, Ryan, Jess, and I do through the Parlor, telling our stories and doing it in the sense of, dark comedy, slapstick, offbeat humor, still doing it in a fashion where, like Ryan says, we're not going to have everybody banging on the door like, what did you say? Why did you say that? But we could actually still keep entertaining and in the end, get the message across.
And we don't want to have something drum up from 10 years ago when as things change and things change dramatically, to be caught up in somebody else's revelry over what they're mad about from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No, listen, you guys are, dead on about that. We see it a lot in currently what's going on. Part of it has to be, I'm on such a small scale here, obviously, but it's that you kind of have to tune out some of the noise, without a doubt. Yeah. I think social media has made it so that everybody can scream at you about everything. Before they might have just been screaming into the void. Now they're doing it online. So they have, unfortunately, everybody now does have a voice. And so you can get some sort of backlash in that regard, without a doubt. I still kind of go based off of the Ricky Gervais thing, which is that if they're offended, who cares? Sometimes it's saying you're offended means nothing. And also, like, the biggest thing is if it's coming from a place of truth, right? And you were telling your story the way that you know that it needs to be told. Mm-hmm. I don't think there'll ever be anything wrong with that.
Right. Yeah, because the last thing any of us want to do is, just throw in the towel because we're so concerned about this person saying that or that person's, reacting in that fashion. That to me, that's just not going to work. Once again, if anything at all, okay, we've got a hurdle, but all right, let's test our creativity, and do it in a really crazy cool fashion.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying, Brody, is that, like, when it comes to art forms too, which is the tough thing, is that art, especially storytelling, is not about perfect people. It's typically about, I can speak to myself, and I'm assuming I'm speaking to you guys. You're both flawed individuals, as am I, and we are constantly fucking up. and we're just, for the most part, just trying to do our best. And I think that sometimes there is that a little bit lost, is that, well, that character did something bad. Well, that's good storytelling. So sometimes, that's called conflict, and that's what stories are based on and whatnot. Ultimately, as long as the movie's goal isn't to go out and hurt people,
Right.
I think ultimately the movies are empathy machines. That's a Ebert quote. They just exist. So it's the only time we can really live in somebody else's shoes. So you get to experience what they experience, see the shit that they go through. And it's the most voyeuristic thing there is. We get to live their life and they don't know we're there.
Yeah.
So I do think that there can be a little bit when it comes to that type of stuff. If a character does something, and if they're not, squeaky clean, especially when it comes to movies that are, let's face it, bigger budget, because they feel the need to be safer to not offend people. Yeah, right. It's a little bit of a weird line to walk. But I do like that it does keep me in check at times too, thinking like, well, if I were to just put this line in here, it better be there for an emotional punch rather than just to build up my ego because I wrote a clever line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or segregating your particular political statement or whatever, as opposed to having the character have that purpose for that particular thing.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely,
whatever the conclusion is later.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's what's so cool about writing too, is that you get to, and sometimes it's scary, you get to, as a writer, as an actor, you guys know, you get to dive into someone else's shoes that could potentially scare the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of part of the cool part is that you get to dive in this thing and you kind of start to figure out who you are. And when you're starting to write out who these characters are, seeing what you would do in the situation, what these other people would do in the situation,
Yeah, some of it's just things like, wow, I've really got a dark sense of humor. I'm really
no, without a doubt.
And I go, you know what? That's just me. I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me. I'm still the face of a villain here, even 8 years later. Still face of a villain.
That is very true. That is true.
Takes me back 8 years ago when you and I were working for 30 minutes together as I developed that party boy on the couch for you.
I do remember you snorting a comical level of cocaine. Not real cocaine, obviously, everybody, but yes, a whole lot of flour. And I believe that you lifted your head, snorted very loud, and screamed "fuck." So I do remember that.
Well, if you want a little bit more,
and I remember Adam like nailed it.
Yeah.
A more appropriate expletive if it was just citric acid. I mean, citric acid definitely would have gotten a more highlighted version. I mean,
but it did happen.
Yeah. I mean, that word is just like dude. You could say it in so many different ways. Dude. Dude. I mean,
oh God.
And still get a different effect no matter how it's done. Switch the flour for citric acid just because you felt like being a comedian that day. Just let it
right.
You don't know if you're being an asshole or if you're being a comic genius at that point. I mean,
right.
It really fucking burns.
It was laced with something. It just definitely that's definitely a lot of method acting there.
That put it in check for me. I mean, it really did. Like I had to go into a zone on that, but that was awesome. That was such an incredible experience, and getting to work with you, through that. It was a great time.
And as we were talking earlier as well, going into our experience with you, with our previous interview with Sean Lamperin, it was how we all met. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember how I was introduced to the movie through Loida.
Yep.
And then I just emailed you, and I'm shooting my monologue to you in my office that day, and I'm sitting there and it's amazing in how we hit it off so quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And yeah, because Erica was, I think, working with. Well, I got the call from Erica, and she's
Yep.
like, "Brody, you got to come down and meet this Adam Newman. He's got a part for you. I think it's going to be great." And I was like, "All right, let's try this out." Yeah.
This is ultimately, you want to make the movies, you want to tell the stories, and there's without a doubt a layer of arrogance to it, and that, like, you're obsessed with telling this particular story, and your ego demands that you make it, and part of you, that really bad part of you, is telling you that you want everybody to tell you that you're brilliant. But I can say with all honesty that the reasons I continue to make movies, the reasons that I've made a lot of choices financially that have crippled me for years and years and years, is because of stuff you guys just talked about, which is that when you get together in a room with a bunch of people and you're eating a bunch of shitty food, or Ryan is in the closet and he just farted during a take. Yep. That happened, Ryan. Whatever it may be, these little community situations. I mean, everybody that's on ICE Patrol, we still message each other constantly because we're still obsessed with that time we spent together 5 years ago. And those are the things that you kind of live for, is those working shitty hours with a whole bunch of people that really, really are obsessed with what they're doing. And you create this kind of community. It becomes like this really, really weird summer camp in a way, which bonds you all so much. And I'm sure you guys feel similarly to what I do about Shallow Point as I look back at that. And that's the stuff I really remember.
Yeah, because we didn't know anybody. I mean, I only knew you through email for a while until we had our first read through.
Yep.
You had the confidence in me to be able to handle this, and you gave it to me right off the bat. And
I remember walking in. I'm like, "Oh, hey, Ryan."
Yeah.
That was, I mean, because I knew Erica was going to be there, but that was it at the moment. So.
I mean, Jason Lugauskas,
and then everybody started
Sean and Allie. I mean, so many people that we met.
Well, what's really cool is how you just explained it too, is that, so you obviously I met through like you said, Loida, which you emailed me. You also had bought my friend Ryan's computer, which was right. Yeah, you had bought his Mac. He lives up here now.
That's right. So I saw that.
Yeah, so you had purchased that. Brody comes in from Erica. Erica comes in. I don't even know where Erica came in from. You start talking about Jason. I worked with him at Barnes & Noble. Allie, I worked with at Staples. She just told me that Sean was into photography. I said, I need a director of photography. So you just kind of start piecing all these things together. And as you guys know, I'm not from Ocala. I just showed up in Ocala and I said, like, well, I got to make a movie because I'm here. That's just what I do. And then you just start picking all these pieces. And then what you said about having confidence, without a doubt, is a big part of it. But a lot of times, what you do, it's a filmmaking is a fucking crapshoot, and you just get together and you start throwing things at the wall. And if the people are willing to work hard, they're good. If not, you never use them again. That's just really what it comes to, you know.
Well, we were. It was wonderful on the confidence level of how, one, you gave me a boost of confidence in what I was doing, and what I didn't know, you allowed me to sit in, watch, learn, and participate. Same thing with Sean. I mean, we didn't know each other then, but we became better friends. We had shot a short film a little over a month ago.
Sure.
And Brody and I, we've known each other since high school. I've known Jason since high school.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? And this is the biggest small town you'll ever be in. And
I love that. By the way, I love that you went to high school with Jason, because I'm still convinced that he's actually just a vampire.
Oh yeah, he doesn't age, does he?
Yeah, that guy has been around since the 1700s.
Yeah, I can do that. And he actually lives like 5 minutes down the road from me.
Oh wow.
So I mean, I go over there and I hang out in a little bit, and we get to see some of his projects that he's working on whenever. And he's still working at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And the confidence that you have given everybody else in one form or fashion in their little element of film?
Well, I have to say, my voice always sounds sarcastic, but I'm being completely honest. That is one of the greatest things that anybody's ever said to me, because it really means a lot when people come together. It is so difficult to get people to do it. When they do, again, like I said, it is so humbling when people come together to try to make something that you dreamt up one day, which is just kind of beautiful. And to be honest, I had no idea what I was doing back then. I still don't. And the fact that you guys said you learned something from me is huge. Also, what I love is that you guys have grown in this different direction. You guys are working on stuff down there together. Obviously, I'm working on stuff up here. This is why I'm hoping you guys get the opportunity to see some of my stuff too, to see how far I've grown from there, because I was so clueless in comparison, and I hope to see a lot more of your guys' stuff too, just to see where you guys have grown from there too. So that's what's kind of cool about this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd say it's coming together even fast. It's growing more and more every day.
That's great.
Especially with the Parlor. I mean, we were just talking about this, maybe 8 months, 7 months.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 8 months now. And
wow, well done.
Just the speed and momentum, and just how, the problem solving aspects into that, of how we're doing these short, whether you want to look at short films, sketch-episodes.
Yeah, our sketch-episodes.
Keeping things, around like a 5-minute mark, but every time it's further building and building and building.
And learning something new. I mean, I've been doing the editing since, a little bit before we started the release of the channel, and I've grown quite a bit on, it's like, okay, I'm looking at footage and like, no, this ain't gonna work. Here's the reasons why. All right, well, what can I justify, and how can we justify this? How much footage can we salvage? I mean, it's just like regular filmmaking.
Of course.
I mean,
it's cool. I mean, because once again, doing it in these small steps, going from 1 to 2 minute bits now up into the 5-6 minute bits, and it's just constantly, growing and learning.
Yeah, what you guys are talking about though too, I mean, all movies are the same. They all have a beginning, middle, and end in that way. You guys are just you're making mini features is what it is. You still have to have a setup. You still have to have a payoff and all that type of stuff. What I can tell you now, you guys have been doing it for 7 months, which by the way is awesome. Please don't stop. It's so difficult once you're at this point to get over that hump and keep continuing doing it, because there's going to be some burnout, but please keep doing it, because consistency is going to bring even more viewers without a doubt.
And that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course,
and the hardest one.
And well, I mean, I'll obviously push it from my end without a doubt, and just make sure that you guys don't get too depressed in another 7 months when you look back at your first stuff and go, oh my god, what the fuck was I thinking? Those are so bad. Because it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go, well, that was good for that time.
There you go. I like that.
Because I mean, what little I know on the video editing and our communications of how we're going to flesh these things out, right now what we have is pretty good. I'm not going to complain. And I mean, I watch YouTube videos of how to do certain ideas, like our last sketch episode. I mean, I acted like I got punched in the face by Beth Wellendowski through my laptop.
Right.
And it was completely different from how we normally would do it. I mean, we added an outside element, a guy complaining about his gut and saying that he's going to try to get some exercise. Meanwhile, he sits down on the couch with his laptop and gets punched in the face with a can of soup. I mean, and realizing that Beth is not exercising with a can of soup. And that's the funny gag to it.
Right.
And that the can of soup punching out of the laptop was based off of something I had seen. It was like, you know what? I like that effect.
Mm-hmm.
I can learn how to do that. Boom.
And then you make it your own. That's what's so great about filmmaking, is you just steal a whole bunch of stuff and then you put your stamp on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it as things grow, I mean, there's gonna be some ups and downs, and working with other people and trying to get things working, there's always gonna be the roller coaster and having to walk through the queue line. And if it's not an interesting queue line, well, then are you actually going to be happy when you finally get to the ride?
Right.
Well, and I feel, and I'm sure, I know you deal with this, but the biggest thing that I'm coming to find, and of course with our crew, I mean, very, very tight knit, doing the work of many people, the biggest thing that I find is that of communication. I mean,
Absolutely.
communication is, God almighty, everything, just on every level. Because just, you know, and we've experienced that very much so, you know, just the slightest miss of, you know, communication about maybe one or two scenes can throw a whole bit, you know, sideways.
Absolutely.
So to me, that's what I'm coming to find, you know, is the biggest thing, and just for how it can positively work on just every level, you know, that says so much for me.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
What would you give to upcoming filmmakers? Any advice, encouragement, or flat out just tell them not to do it?
Okay. In jest, I would say don't do it if you're not 1,000% sold on it. That is, first of all, if
We've heard that before.
do not half-ass it.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Whole ass it, without a doubt. I do want to say that this is going to sound negative at first. It's not. That your idea, whatever idea that's floating in your head right now, it sucks. It's stupid. It doesn't work. Now still go make the movie anyway, please. Every idea has been thought up in some capacity. Every single person sits around and says, oh man, I have the best idea for a movie, and they don't make it. Just make the movie anyway. You are, right now you probably think you're weird for thinking all these things that you're thinking. You are. Make it into a fucking movie. Just please do it. Just go and do it. I can't explain how many times post Shallow Point I sat on my ass and just thought about how good I was going to be at this, and then never did anything about it. And it took years for me to finally go, I got to get back up on this horse and then start making stuff. And the moment I finish something, I go, well, I got to make something else, and I got to make something else, and I got to do something that's testing myself and changing up what we're doing, something that's a new idea, something that I want to play with, a new idea that I want to play with, something new that's interesting to me, whatever it may be. We're sharks in that regard. Just constantly be moving, constantly be making stuff. Don't make excuses, just make a movie. So that's really, a lot of times it sounds a little bit negative. If you're 1,000% sold on it and you love making movies, as Tarantino says, you can't help but make a good one. So you will make something good, and you're going to make a whole lot of bad ones first. You have to. I believe the rule is you must make 7 bad movies before you're allowed to make one good one.
How did you come to the conclusion of 7?
Because I made 7 bad ones. So therefore, you guys all have to.
Okay, that's based off of experience. Okay, gotcha.
You got to make a lot of bad ones to figure out how stories work. You do, and you have to figure out what your voice is.
Ooh,
yeah. And do not, this is the biggest thing, do not get obsessed with the money. It is without a doubt one of the most expensive jobs to do. You can still make movies for nothing. If you want to raise money, do it. You can. It's difficult. We had to make a fundraiser, and we ran a golf tournament, and we begged people for it. And most of the time they still said, nah, I don't have anything. You still have to keep asking. You have to be cool with rejection and all this stuff. And if you need money, get money. If not, ask your friends, beg your friends, force your friends, meet some people in Ocala and take them. You know, whatever it takes to get these movies made, you just need to do it. So that's all.
Kidnapping.
Yes, without a doubt. Human traffic to make movies.
But it was all for good reason.
It's all for the sake of art.
Right.
Just like the banana taped to a wall that was being sold for $100,000. You know that was a true thing, right?
Oh yeah, well I believe it.
Yeah, and
Oh, I believe
then
it.
somebody got arrested because they ate the banana.
I'm not at all surprised.
I just the degradation of society. But and there was something else I was gonna say, and it just slipped my mind. Oh, if you had an unlimited budget, what would your dream film or dreams genre for your film that you would film?
So I have a script right now that I've gone through. For the past probably 8 or 10 years, I've been writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. I'm fine saying the name, I guess. At the moment, it's called The Crystals and the Corn Girl. It is a dark, it's an adult fairy tale. I've been writing it for 10 years and I can't get the fucking movie out of my head. It constantly wants to exist, and it exists in very different forms. And as I'm changing, the script is changing. I've done 100 drafts. Each time it changes. I really love the draft that it currently is at. I know that it's going to cost a lot of money to make. It's something that I have every intention on making before I die, because it is just a movie that is very, very, very important to me. That would be one. As I would like to add a second one, is that I've always wanted to make one Star Wars movie, but I did have an Obi-Wan movie that I wanted to make. Now that they're making the show, it has officially crushed my dreams. But I did have an Obi-Wan movie that I wanted to make that was an Obi-Wan Kenobi story, but it was kind of like Apocalypse Now. So that was kind of I'll give that one as a fun one. But like I said, that dark, the kind of adult fairy tale that I want to do is really the one that I've been kind of dreaming about doing for about 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that there's a lot of drafts that need to be done? I mean, is it like particular scenes? Are you adding to it or what?
Well, first of all, I'm changing constantly. That's a huge part of it. So what has become important in the story has changed over time. Without a doubt, I think people tend to write similar stories. Like there are themes that both of you are obsessed with. You can't get out of your head whether you recognize them or you don't. I'm the same way. But at the same time, I am growing, and my philosophies on life are changing, and these characters are challenging that and whatnot. I do believe you have to go through a lot of drafts in order to get a good story out. I think you need to cut every piece of fat that is around it to get the cleanest story you can. There are times where I have drafts that are 200 pages and I get them down to 90 pages. And it's because you have to trim, you have to kill your darlings. They say that one of the best ways to do it is just delete your favorite scene from the entire story and keep going. And sometimes I do that. I've cut stuff out that I love dearly. I've cut characters that I love dearly. They're sitting in a folder. Nobody will ever get to meet them. It's highly, highly depressing. But at the same time, it's important for the sake of the story. The story comes first constantly. And as I read the drafts, sometimes you just feel it. There's a scene where you go, I don't know why it's not working for me. Let me put it aside for 6 months. And then you come back to it and you go, oh yeah, obviously it was this. Why would this be in it? So there's stuff like that. I feel like when I write, at least, I don't know how you guys do it, but I basically just constantly rewrite. I write the first 10 pages or so, then I rewrite it, and then I get to 12 pages, and then I rewrite it, and I get to 15, and then I get bored, and I jump to the end, which I always do the beginning and the ending first, and then I just write basically backwards and jump back and forth between the two, and I'm constantly doing it. So by the time a first draft is out, I've already done 100 drafts anyway. And then once the first draft is done, then we start doing real drafts after that. So
right. Well, I mean, I understand the idea of things being a little too close. You kind of lose sight of what.
Oh, certainly.
You get tunnel vision, so to speak.
Well, and then one of the things that's great now is that I do have a team of people that have worked with me a lot, and they're pretty good at bullshitting. At the same time, when I ask them for what they truly believe about it, they will tell me exactly what doesn't work for them. And your answer when that happens can't be like, well, you're wrong. Your answer my answer in this case has to always be, okay, Now I have to wonder why. Why wasn't that working for it? What am I not doing on the page that isn't working for it? And some of the time it's very difficult for them to even understand why it didn't work. And sometimes they're just blatantly like, this character does not work for me at all. I don't believe that they exist. I don't believe that they would do the things they do. And that's kind of a kick in the groin, but at the same time, it's absolutely necessary, because ultimately I want them to like the movie, and I want you to like the movie, and I want all these people to like the movie, and I want it to work for them.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone's on low battery now.
Oh, okay. Well, then before we kill your battery,
Yep.
we shall wrap it up.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you would like to tell the audience before we wrap this up?
Obviously check out all of our social media and stuff like that. I don't like to self-promote overly too much. Please watch, if any of you guys, any of the viewers have any interest in watching ICE Patrol, Scarlet K, which I don't like to show that much, Nomad, even the really rough opening of Carolina Shag, I'm willing to send it to people, because I just want people to watch the damn stuff, please. Also, everybody who's watching this, please continue watching these two guys' stuff, because they're making, keep making, and you guys keep making stuff. And for everybody, just keep watching movies. Everybody, please, they're really important. And movie theaters are dying right now, and they may die altogether. And that could happen. No matter what happens, you still have to watch movies, however it is packaged to you, please, because they're highly important. And like I mentioned before, they are empathy machines. They make us better people. They truly do. It's the reason why I care about people. Otherwise, I would be an emotionless husk. So I think watch as many movies as you possibly can. And if you want to make movies, just please go and do it. And if they need my email address, please put that in there too. Anybody that ever wants to talk about movies and they want to get started or whatever it is, I am obsessed with teaching people and helping people. And I do run a no bullshit policy where I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. But if you sign up for that, I'm always willing to talk about it. So
that's awesome. Fantastic.
Yes,
man.
sir.
And
thank you guys.
Again, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And even rolling the clocks back 8 years. Thank you so much. Of course, man.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. And I mean, look forward to keeping in contact with you, man. And hopefully one day we will make it up to New Hampshire so we can actually.
Okay, real quick. We're gonna say this as my battery is dying, and so all your viewers know, both of you, I'm gonna be making this movie next year in the winter, up in the snow of Maine and New Hampshire. I want you two to come crew for me, or at least be bit parts at the bare minimum. And I will work out a way that we will take care of you. I'm not going to pay you, but I will feed you. I will house you. And in all likelihood, we can figure out something with travel. Please, I would like to work with you guys again.
Absolutely.
Next year. Let's get it done.
That sounds incredible.
All right.
All right, let's do it.
It's a deal and a date.
All right.
Yeah. So this is Adam Newman, everybody.
But it did happen.
That's right. With But It Did Happen Productions. Independent filmmaker. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there for everybody to see. Also, our interview with Adam will be on our podcast at Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and on many more. So that will wrap it up for the Parlor's interview tonight.
Mr. Adam Newman, thank you so much again,
Thank
sir.
you, man.
I'm Brody
Thank you guys so
Barcode.
much.
I'm Ryan James.
Thank you.
Have a happy one, everybody.